Look, the words live service have become the two words that send shivers down a gamer's spine when a game is announced. I get it. Botch launches, empty promises, microtransaction hell, and the fear of missing out. It's all there for sure. But the high profile failure of Avengers, Suicide Squad, and Anthem all tell a familiar story, taking a prestige single player studio and putting them down a path that they know nothing about without the resources to create something substantial. On the flip side, you look at Fortnite, a genuine infinite money glitch it feels like at this point. It's remarkable what they do. They've just announced a second Marvel themed season. And once again, I'm just sat here thinking to myself, imagine a well done live service superhero video game. Game development is more costly than ever, more difficult than ever, but I'm seeing Fortnite and I'm just thinking the superhero genre and live service paired together have been nothing but a disappointment. But at the same time, it's a match made in heaven. So let's talk about why Fortnite is proof that we need a live service superhero game and the mistakes that one would have to avoid. This feeling's been bubbling for a while, and it's actually nothing to do with the new Marvel season that Fortnite announced, but it has been enhanced by that. Every May 4th for the last 3 or so years, I love to go and play some Star Wars games to celebrate May 4th. And every year I look at all the different games around me, and there's only ever one that really sticks out as this ongoing, authentic Star Wars offering. And it's Fortnite. No Battlefront 2 now that its support is dead, and the ship for the Old Republic has sailed for me at this point, unfortunately. So the best experience winds up being Fortnite because they add sabers to the game, or the E11 blaster, or the bowcaster, and it always synergizes with either some new Star Wars skins or Star Wars skins returning. I got a similar feeling the other week when I went to the midnight showing for Deadpool and Wolverine. I loved it. And the next day, when I came back, I just really wanted to play something with Deadpool or Wolverine or just Marvel characters. Something ongoing that tied into the movie that felt like it was a celebration of it. And there was nothing. No ongoing game with a tie-in event, nothing to capitalize on it. Old Marvel games are just not up for sale, so I went back to the Ultimate Alliance games that I snagged when it was on sale, or Ultimate Alliance 3 on the Nintendo Switch. There's this gigantic hole there. I know Marvel Rivals is on the way, and that's definitely going to fill some of the void and add that synergy for sure. Like new Captain America movie, boom, Cap's added as a playable character. Something that Fortnite does so well itself. You know, the Deadpool and Wolverine skins are in the store. They're capitalizing on the X-Men 97 hype with Cyclops and Jubilee and Colossus. But it's not just the skins that Fortnite gets, it's the content alongside it. I recently went back at the end of this season because I forgot that Magneto was in the Battle Pass and just quickly dove in, got Magneto, and I was like, oh, Magneto's got powers in the game. And I just knew it was going to be so much fun to use, whether that be Spider-Man's web swinging, Cap's shield, the lightsabers that they add. It always just works, and the team at Epic are just pure wizards. And then in the new season that's coming up, you've got Iron Man gauntlets returning, War Machine's turret, Cap's shield, some kind of Doom blast, Black Panther gauntlets, and then you got like Latveria and the Raft appearing as locations. They just get it, man. And right now, it's the only ongoing game that can provide that kind of comic book experience that so many fans just want. So it got me thinking, will we see another attempt at a superhero live service game outside of Marvel Rivals and Avengers and Suicide Squad? Or is that it now? I think of all the games that tried it, Avengers probably came the closest. Whilst there's aspects of Suicide Squad that I love in its world, in its loot aesthetics and the build crafting, the actual characters themselves, they're not authentic to who they are. They all just shoot guns. One thing that I was always so impressed by in Avengers was the character kits. Iron Man felt authentic to Iron Man, but played very differently to a Black Widow who played very differently to Hawkeye. Every hero felt distinct, and Avengers had a terrific chance to really synergize with the MCU and where that was at. It had the monetization model too, if it could have capitalized. The MCU tie-in skins, the prestige comic book skins. It was just too far gone at that point when it really started to get these skins out. But like, if there's one thing that the comic book genre has, it is decades worth of inspiration for cosmetic ideas that they could pull to monetize the game. Before I get into why other live service games haven't worked, I want to talk about what excites me about the idea of a comic book superhero live service game working in the first place. See, live service games inherently act as comic books themselves, or an even stronger parallel to the MCU. A game that has resonated with me over a large number of years is Destiny 2. Now, incompetent management aside, Destiny 2 has just had its own endgame like moment in the final shape, but that also has its own similarities to the rest of the MCU. The base launch was not great, but neither was Phase 1 of the MCU. Forsaken comes along, bang, it's like Civil War. Over the years, the story is continuously told, new allies are gathered, conflicts are resolved before a final showdown with the Witness, and everyone uniting in that Avengers endgame like moment. That's obviously a very basic level approach and definitely simplifies the vast amount of issues that Destiny has had in that time, but then you imagine that as a superhero game. Like, let's take DC for example. Years 1 to 2, you got the Legion of Doom. 3 to 4, you got Luther, or Doomsday, or Vandal Savage for example. And over time, it all builds up to an eventual showdown with Darkseid. To witness that in video game form is the comic book dream, and you simply can't deny that. Granted, Insomniac Spider-Man has slowly built up to Green Goblin over 3 games, and it features that kind of ongoing narrative in that experience, but a shared experience like that with friends is the hallmarks of a comic book fan's dream. Ask any Destiny player that just played the final shape with someone, especially the final mission, how special that coming together can be. But it's not just the potential of the narrative, but the gameplay too. Like the amount of villains that you can draw from, for boss fights, to grunts, to factions, or the amount of heroes that you can pull as new additions to the game or allies to fight alongside with, and the amount of content at your disposal to draw from is just endless. Like, for example, if you look at the Marvel Rivals beta that we just got, the cast in that beta is stacked, and yet it's still missing Cap, Deadpool, Wolverine, Cyclops, Fantastic Four, and I could go on and on and on. I always thought that Avengers may be a little bit too ambitious with the cadence of the amount of characters that they wanted to keep getting out. Like, I think it was every 3 months, where I always felt a character per expansion was something more realistic for that kind of game, especially for how big an undertaking that is and the giant lack of content that was around the game in the first place. But all of this that I'm speaking about here, it's wishful thinking, because whilst on paper it all sounds fantastic, on the practical side of things, it's a lot more difficult. There's a reason why in the Guardians of the Galaxy game we only ever control Quill, why Suicide Squad likely made a pivot to guns instead of the core abilities of each character, and why Avengers ultimately couldn't keep up the character cadence that they set, and the fact that we eventually got clone characters, for example Captain America and Bucky. Making video games is both hard and expensive, man. Making a live service game that's engaging to keep players coming back to constantly is even harder. The stuff that excites me on paper, it sounds amazing. But how do you keep people coming back? You've got to have some kind of gear or loot right to make it replayable. How does that affect the feel and the playability of the game? People like to look back at Avengers now with rose-tinted glasses and like, wow, what a game we had and what an experience. Did you play at launch? Do you remember the bugs where Cap's face was like out here and he had like some crazy nose where he squished his helmet? Avengers was a great time. The first time you played with friends and you were playing as Cap and you saw Mjolnir just fly across the screen and wipe out a load of enemies, it was great. But let's not forget that its endgame was really bare bones. Its boss fights were so mundane and boring to play with friends. It wasn't the package that we probably all look back and remember it to be. I've always said that my dream game is a live service Justice League game. Ever since I watched Justice League Unlimited as a kid, I just wanted a DC world to live in that continuously evolved. And you're probably screaming at me, yeah, but what about DC Universe Online? And you're right. But I want to be those heroes, not a version of them, not my own version. I want to be Batman or Superman or Green Lantern. That's who I want to be. And for as much as I love what DC Universe Online is and how it's still going today, which is incredible, it does feel quite dated now, and I'm looking for something a little bit more modernly playable. The thing is, I think that that model is the only one that can truly work and be sustained as a comic book superhero live service PvE game. Marvel Heroes Omega is probably the closest we've come. It had the tie-ins that I spoke about. It was just horribly priced. It had the ongoing content. And I really do believe that for a superhero game, that's the model that can work. I only got into Marvel Heroes as it was on its last legs. But the potential there for what the MCU has become, for hopefully what the DCU will become, is massive. It can build the stories, and the gear makes sense. The character kits don't have to be as fleshed out as a third person action over the shoulder game. Leave the big budget single player games to Insomniac or EA and create this ever evolving superhero sandbox. I love DC Universe Online, but it just feels so dated to go back and play now. I've recently gone back to Diablo 4, and I liken Marvel Heroes as to more of a Diablo model. Each season could come with a new activity themed around a new villain. DC, for example, you could have Season of Bane, and all the enemies are tightened up with Titan-focused gear. Season of Zod, Season of Sinestro, you get the point. And with each season comes a new character that focuses. So with Sinestro comes Green Lantern, maybe you had Hal Jordan, now it's John Stewart. I'm getting myself all excited thinking about it. The mistake that these companies make is pairing the wrong project to the wrong studio. Like from the really unfortunate Insomniac hack, we heard about a cancelled multiplayer Spider-Man game. And everyone lost their minds. It was like, why? Why? This is all I ever wanted. And I'm sat in, I'm thinking to myself, thank God. It would take the entirety of Insomniac to develop that game in a meaningful way. And even then, the power fantasy that you really enjoy in those Spider-Man games is gone. Because to make it playable, you have to introduce gear and health pools, and that combat sandbox is never the same in a co-op setting. In the kind of top-down games, you can create dungeons and raids, and it makes it easy to add in new playable characters. It makes sense to have gear sets. All of that is perfect for that kind of game, while still fulfilling each character's power set and power fantasy. Of course, we all dream of the third-person PvE sandbox, but I'm just not sure that's ever as fun as you imagine it to be, balancing Superman to Green Arrow. I'm sorry, Arrow fans, I didn't mean to do your boy like that. I'm excited for Marvel Rivals for sure, and I love the beta, but I'm just not the PvP guy, and especially not the competitive hero shooter guy. It all comes back to Fortnite though, not a sentence I ever thought I'd be saying in my life. I can't wait for this Marvel season, but all it's done is make me crave that ongoing superhero game where you play as the hero. Like the way that Fortnite synergizes its battle passes or shop skins with the big releases just shows me the desire for this kind of game. I know so many people who don't even vibe with PvP, never mind Fortnite, that are going to show up for this new Marvel season, and it just got me thinking, what a huge desire there is for a live service superhero game, and what could actually work as one. But those are just my thoughts. What do you think? Could a live service PvE superhero game really work? Do you agree with me in that it should be top down, or have you got other ideas in mind? Let's have a chat in the comments down below. I'd actually love to hear from you. If you enjoyed hearing my thoughts, dropping a like on the video would be really appreciated. And hey, if you're after comic book games content, consider subscribing because you are 100% in the right place for that. And maybe consider checking out some of the other comic book content on the channel, like the Arkham retrospectives, Suicide Squad coverage, or my thoughts on the recent Marvel Rivals beta. As always, all my socials are linked in the description down below, so if you have anything else for me, you can get at me on there, or just see some really bad comic book opinions, not gonna lie. Other than that, I hope you have a terrific day, look after yourself, and I'll catch you in the next one.